Hello friends, welcome to my channel ELS English Literature Studies with Kaur Harpreet. Today we will talk about one of the most renowned poets in the English language who died when he was only 25. Yes, the poet I'm talking about today is John Keats. His time period is 1795 to 1821 and he died because of tuberculosis, right? The main theme in Keats' poetry is the relation between the beautiful world of art and suffering through which he has gone through himself, right? And the Ode on a Grecian Urn is one of Keats' most famous poems or odes. It is an amazing poem both for some beautiful language, for vivid images and its intellectual depth. It is very famous. Now, what is an urn? We are talking about an ode on a Grecian urn. What is urn? An urn is a sort of vase which is used to hold flowers or to be placed in a garden, right? But most likely you will know this word as a container that holds ashes of a dead person after he has been cremated. Now, what kind of use Keats has in his mind for the urn? Let us talk about it. The urns that were made in classical times by the Greeks and Romans had decorations on them. Decorations with figures which are dancing, showing dance, playing sports, fighting, and even having sex, right? And the figures on the urns could be humans or God also. Ode on a Grecian urn means to or about a Greek urn. The urn is addressed. Talking to a thing is a thing that poets do in odes, right? And you will notice that in this ode, the poet John Keats also addresses the things he sees on the urn, right? And now question arises, what is an ode? I have already discussed what is an ode, what is a sonnet, but let me talk about it in brief. That ode is a classical kind of poem that was originally meant to be sung. The ancient Greeks used to sing their odes, right? And the ode can have various structures. It can be long, it can be short, it can be regular, irregular, and the subject of an ode is something that is loved and something serious that invites thoughts. So let us read the poem now. This is first stanza of a poem, right? First line is, thou still unravished bride of quietness. Firstly, I will explain line to line this poem. I will cover only two stanzas, otherwise it will be very lengthy video and it will be not easy to upload it, so I will cover only two stanzas, and if you are interested you can check my upcoming videos for rest of the stanzas, right? First line is about stanza that thou still unravished bride of quietness. Now the urn is the virgin, right? The poet has used here the word unravished. Unravished means that she has not been touched. Thou still unravished bride of quietness means the urn is the virgin bride of quietness, and a bride is a woman who gets married, and in this case the vase is the bride of quietness. Thou foster child of silence and slow time. The urn is also the foster child of silence and time. Usually time is fast, but here it is slow because we are talking about an urn which is not alive, so time passes slowly for it. Sylvan historians who can't thus express a fairy tale more sweetly than our rhyme. Sylvan means woods. The word has a pleasant, peaceful connotation, right? So Sylvan history means the maker of the urn who presents a pleasant scene in the woods. What leaf-fringed legend haunts about the shape? Leaf-fringed legend. Legend means old story. What legend framed with leaves? What an old story which is framed with these leaves can be found around your shape. About thy shape means around your shape, means around the urn, right? Of deities and mortals or of both. Deities are gods and mortals are humans or both. In Tempe or the Dales of Arcady. Tempe is a valley in Greece and Dale is also a valley. Arcady is a region in Greece that is associated with the peaceful and simple country life, right? Firstly, I will explain this poem line by line, then I will give a brief of this stanza after I will cover these 10 lines, right? Then next line is line number 8 is, what men or gods are these, what maidens loth? Now what is a maiden? Maiden is an old word for girl, right? And loth means not willing. The girls don't want to be kissed or more than that, right? What men or gods are these, what maidens loth? That these what don't the girls want? They don't want to be kissed or touched, right? What mad pursuit, what struggle to escape? What mad pursuit, what struggle to escape? Mad pursuit may refer to classic scene where the nymphs or girls fight to escape the man's grabbing arms. What pipes and timbrels, what wild ecstasy? Pipes are flutes, and timbrel means this is an ancient kind of drum, and pipes means flutes, right? The music is played and the people or gods in the picture are going wild. They are in ecstasy or in their mood. They're probably dancing wildly, right? Now let us discuss its explanation. That John Keats is very impressed by the beauty of this picture that is depicted on this urn. As in Ode to Nightingale, John Keats is inspired by a natural object, and here he is inspired by a man-made work of art, right? And the Grecian urn, which has existed through the ages, it is the foster child of silence and time, slow time. And time has not tarnished its beauty, right? It is not disturbed, the time has not disturbed its beauty, it is still the same. And this urn records a flowery tale which is expressed through the dancing figures, and which cannot be expressed so sweetly by any poetic power, right? And the poet thinks that the pastoral scenes which are painted on this urn must either be from the valley of Tempe or from the valley of Arcadia, right? And in it, gods or men or both are pursuing unwilling maidens, and they're playing upon their pipes and they're singing most joyously, right? So next stanza is stanza 2. I'm trying to cover it within time, so my speed is little bit fast. Hard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter. Therefore, ye soft pipes play on. This is quite an interesting statement by the poet, right? Very interesting that when we look at the urn, we might hear music in our imagination, but that music isn't really there. The speaker speaks of things that we can't see on the urn. We can only imagine, right? And the speaker draws our attention to this. And he says that the music that you can't actually hear, that imaginary music is actually better than the real music. Heard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter, right? Not to the sensual ear, but more endeared. Sensual ears. The flutes which are shown in the picture on the urn play not to our physical ears, but to the ears of our imagination. And these are better loved, or at least the speaker of the poem thinks so, than our real ears. That it means the urn play not to our ears of imagination. It plays for our ears of our imagination. The urn plays. I will delete this word. The urn play to our ears of imagination, right? And next line is pipe to the spirit deities of no tone. In this line, the speaker talks about the songs do not exist. Either they exist only in the imagination of the person who is looking at the urn. And what is ditty? It is a simple song. The flutes, the pipes, the pipes or the flutes are asked to play with this song, but they are spirit songs. Spirit songs means spirit deities. Deity means song, and spirit songs means songs which are sung by ghosts, right? Even then, urn is in the imagination. The urn itself doesn't actually exist, as it exists only in the mind of the poet, and the poet did not refer to us anywhere in the poem about an existing urn, right? Next lines are, fair youth beneath the trees thou canst leave, thy song nor ever can those trees be bare. These two lines teach us another aspect of art, right? Visual art captures only one moment and makes it eternal. The youth are always under the trees. Fair means beautiful, and the people are in the scene are always hearing the same song, and the trees will never lose their leaves. Thy song, it is written, nor ever can those trees be bare, that they will not shed their leaves any, because they are not the original ones, right? Bold lover, never canst thou kiss. The lover will never get the kiss. He is waiting from the woman, right? Thou winning near the goal, yet do not grieve. Grieve means do not feel bad, and but the lover still has won a few points. He doesn't need to be sad. Grieve means sad, right? Bold lover, never canst thou kiss, thou winning near the goal, yet do not grieve. Though the lover will not get the kiss he is waiting for, but the lover should not be sad, because the lover still has one of few points. What are the few points? That she cannot fade. Though thou hast not thy bliss, forever wilt thou love and she be fair. These are the, we can say, pros, that he should not feel grief, because the woman he wants will not fade. She will not grow ugly, and she will not grow old. On the other hand, he will never be happy, and his love will be forever, and she will forever be beautiful. Now let me give its explanation in brief, that the poet thinks that imagination is greater than reality. Where he says heard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter, it means the poet thinks that imagination is greater than reality, and unheard music is sweeter than the heard one. And the silent floats on the unproduced music, that is not for our senses, but for our souls. That is not for sensual ears, that is not for our physical ears, but they are for our souls, and their song will be eternal. And these songs provide us spiritual food, right? And life is short-lived, but art has a very long life. The charming young man who is standing under the tree, beneath the tree. Fair youth means charming man, or charming youth beneath the tree, who is standing under the tree and is playing upon his flute, upon his pipe, will go on playing, because this is imagination, that he will go on playing. And the tree painted on the vase will not shed away its leaf, nor ever can those trees be bare, means the trees will not shed away their leaves. And the lover who is trying to kiss his lover should not grieve, because its lover's beauty will remain the same. She will not grow ugly, or she will not grow old as the ages pass, right? And but he may not be able to kiss her. He will always go on loving, and she would always remain beautiful. And art is permanent, while life is ever changing, right? Friends, these are the two stanzas I have tried to cover in today's video, because it is going to be a very lengthy video. I hope you will understand my problem, and I will discuss rest of the stanzas in my upcoming video. So stay tuned, and if you like my content, please hit the like button, share and subscribe my channel. And if you are new to my channel, please hit the bell button so that you can get notifications for my upcoming videos. Thanks a lot for watching.